Hey, we are live. I have with me Mr. Kyle Wilson and Ron White. Kyle was Jim Rohn's business partner for 18 years, the founder of Jim Rohn International. He's worked with some amazing people, including Mr. Rohn. Ron White is a two-time U.S. memory champion. I have with getting feedback. Oops. Okay. He said that was me. So Ron is a two-time U.S. memory champion. Is that correct, Ron?
Yes, it is. 2009 and 10.
That's awesome. And I read on your website that you also hold or held for a while the record for being able to count memorize the cards in a deck of cards, or what was that I read?
I held the record for the fastest to memorize a deck of cards in the United States. So they shuffle up a deck of cards, 52 cards really thoroughly, and they put it in front of you and they say go. And when they say go, you jump, you pick up the cards, look through it, memorize it, and then essentially reassemble a second deck. But I did it in 1 minute and 27 seconds.
That's unreal. That is absolutely amazing. So, we talked about coming on here and chatting with you guys. I know you have a 2-day event we're going to talk about coming up. I think it would be really beneficial for everybody to stick around and see what that's all about too. And if you guys would, everybody watching, go ahead and share this thing out for us. Share it out. Let's get a bunch of people on here. Because there's going to be some really, really valuable information that's coming out of this live stream. But Ron, I'd like to start off with you, if you don't mind, and ask you, improving one's memory. It seems like logically it would be a way to improve your business or your sales if you're in sales, and if you own a business, you're in sales. So how would improving one's memory improve their business or even their life in general?
Yeah, well, I think we all agree if we just woke up and we lost our memories tomorrow, it would negatively impact our business if our memories declined. Well, you flip that around, it would make sense that if our memories improve, it would positively impact our business. And, you can think about it so many different ways. How many of you are in business and you met somebody today, you sold them a product, maybe you sold them a house or a car or insurance, and then 6 weeks later, when sporting events open up again, you see them at a sporting event and you're not able to remember their name. Well, Brian Tracy says that person has a sphere of influence of 260 people. He says that not only when you remember their name in 6 weeks, but you remember their name, you build a relationship, a friendship because of it, and then they'll give you referrals in that 260 that sphere of influence of 260 people. So a lot of people come for names and faces. A lot of people are terrified of standing in front of a group and giving a speech or a talk. And I think, the better that you can do that, and the more comfortably and confidently you can do that, that's going to make an impact on your career, on your business, or whatever. A lot of people are really stressed about learning stuff. They have a product knowledge or sales presentations or just information about an industry that they're trying to learn, and they can't learn it. They're stressed about it. So there's a lot of different reasons people want to take a memory course, but a lot of it has to do with making more money, remembering names to build relationships, giving speeches without notes to be a more charismatic presenter, remembering what you learned, that kind of stuff.
So improving your memory, is it like once you, and I got to think about how to ask this question. So if I said to you, hey, name every place that you've ever spoken on a stage, right? Would that like be something that you could recall, like just because your memory's so good, or would that require some sort of effort first to recall that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And that leads a broader part of that question is Ron, were you born with some special ability where you can just remember anything, or is this a system that anybody can learn? And it's the second. It's a system that anybody can learn. So you wouldn't apply it to, hey, where have I spoken, because that's not going to benefit me in any way. But what might benefit me is I read a Jim Rohn book or a Zig Ziglar book or a business investing book or a sales training book. And I'm like, you know what? Information is golden. I want to remember this. So then I would go through and consciously memorize it. But no, if you said, where were you 2 years ago on this date? I couldn't tell you. That's a natural ability very few people have, but some people do have it. What I focus on is more learning a system to make you more money and consciously applying it.
I love that. And because my wife has this weird ability, like she could go, hey, remember when we were eating in Panama City, Florida at that restaurant and Jenny, our waitress I'm like, who? Like, and she remember, and she can remember anybody's name like that. And it's just creepy almost. I'm like, how do you know that? Like,
yeah,
that would require significant effort on my part. And I honestly don't know how to do it.
Well, it's because you haven't learned. It's right. Improving your memory is a very simple process. I teach kids as young as 6 years old. It's not a difficult thing to do. You have to learn to think in pictures, and you just have to learn to focus your brain, and you can do that through some very simple steps. So if you're focused and you're paying attention and you're able to think in pictures and visualize what you want to remember, everybody watching right now, if I said, hey, have you ever been in a car accident? They could say, oh, yeah, you know what? In 2005 or 1995, I was in a car accident, and here's all the details. And they could give us all the details. Now, we got to ask ourselves, why can we remember so vividly 25 years ago, but we can't remember 3 days ago? And in the answer is a secret to how we can improve our memory. We remember 25 years ago that car accident because there was action involved. There was emotion involved, and it's a picture. We can see it. So those are kind of 3 steps that if we consciously learn to apply them, we can apply to anything, and it'll dramatically impact our life through remembering names and faces, remembering what we read, giving speeches or presentation, memorizing poems or quotes or verses. And it's easier than most people think.
Wow. And you've been doing this a while.
Yeah, I have 29 years, which I know looks impossible because I look like I'm 29 years old right now.
Right.
But I am not. I was 18 when I started doing this, and I took a memory class, and I really liked it. And it's been 29 years, and I've been traveling around and speaking at groups. It's been a lot of fun, but more than fun, I've got to really teach this to people on every single continent except Antarctica.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Like you've literally been on every continent except.
Well, yeah, I've given this speech, and this is more about a kind of almost getting us a little sidetracked here, but yeah, I've been paid money to give a speech in 55 countries on memory training. And I'm not saying I've traveled to 55 countries and I've stopped at the airport. I'm saying I got off there, they gave me a check for speaking, and I left in 55 countries.
Oh my goodness.
But that just shows the demand. That just shows 2 things. That shows the demand. Everybody wants to improve their memory. Number 2, it's universal. It's a universal human trait. Yeah. And we can all do it if we think in pictures and learn to focus a little bit.
Is it something that because I think me, like most people, we have a tendency of suffering from desire of the path of least resistance. So is it something that requires Harvard level, like you got to get in there and grind and read all these books? And is it much more simple than that?
You know what? Kyle and I have a friend named Ron Jones, and Ron Jones has some grandkids, and they're probably 10, 11, 8 years old, somewhere around in there. And he called me about a year ago. He said, Ron, my grandkids are over here. Henry's over here, which is one of his grandsons. He says, why don't you come over and will you teach them how to memorize the presidents? And Ron's a good friend of mine. He's a good friend of Kyle's. And I said, sure, man. Got in my car, drove over to his house. When I walked in, those 8, 9, 10-year-old kids could not tell you the president's of the United States. When I left, not only could they say them forwards, Washington, Adams, Jefferson, Madison, Monroe, they could say them backwards. Or I could say, who was the 5th president? And they could say Monroe. Who was the 10th president? And they could say Tyler. And that's so different than how most kids learn. Most kids, they learn the presidents through a song. George Washington, John Adams. So they're linking it. So they could never say it backwards. They could never pick it out by number. So to answer your question, this is not Harvard level. You got to be a genius to do it. It's a very simple system of thinking in pictures. Here's an analogy I'll give to you. If everybody right now took all the file folders off of their computer and instead they put everything on their desktop. Now imagine you got 2,000 icons on your desktop. There's no folders anymore. And I said, hey, Ken, go get the Kyle Wilson file. You would be like, oh my gosh, where's the Kyle? It's in here somewhere. There's 2,000 icons. 2 hours later, you find it. But if you had folders on your topic, your computer, and one said personal development, and you click on personal development, inside that it said marketing, and inside of that it said Kyle Wilson, you could get to it in 3 seconds.
Yeah,
because you have folders. So the human brain works the same way. We meet people, and that name goes in our memory. Ken, Kyle, Steve, Brian, Tom, all my new bank account, the new information I'm learning. And then 3 weeks later, we see a person. We can't think of their name because our brain is trying to look at this desktop with 2,000 icons. And we're like, oh my gosh, what's their name? What's their name? I can't think of it. They walk away. We get in our car. We're driving home and it pops up. And what that proves is it's on the desktop of our memory, but we just have to sort through all the other information to find it. And what we need to be able to do that is, number one, think in pictures, and number two, store information in filing cabinets. And that's exactly what Kyle and I are going to teach people to do May 7th and 8th. It's going to be a 2-day event, and I'll teach for 7 hours on this.
Oh my gosh. So, and I want to talk about Kyle as well. But let's use this moment because you just created an unbelievably great segue. And I'd like for everybody to know what the website is if they would like to go get signed up for it. I know you guys were talking about raising the price. You did not raise the price yet, Kyle informed me. So that you said is tomorrow, Kyle?
Yes.
So right now it's only $297, and that's for two full days.
Yeah, the thing is, Ken, it's all skills. We don't have 20 speakers giving infomercials to sell stuff. This is a 2-day event. Ron's used to do quite a bit. He stopped doing it. It's intensive. And then I don't offer the things I've learned all these years. I built a 1 million+ list. I filled up huge rooms, sold millions of books. Everything I teach, I don't put in an online course. I offer it to my inner circle, but I give it all away at this event. So it's half a day Ron each day, half a day me each day. We don't have an upsell. We're not there to give you a little bit to sell you more. We will have a couple of things people can take advantage of, but it's different. It's more like projects we're part of.
Yeah.
But you get the whole thing. You get the whole ball of wax that Ron teaches, and he actually charges more for that for an online course. And then we give over $2,000 worth of bonuses away. So it's kind of crazy. And I think we've done this in Los Angeles. We've done it in Dallas. We only do one a year. It sells out every time.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing we get is, wow, we wished we would have brought more people. And it's just rave reviews. It's the funnest thing we do. And we had it slated for Philadelphia this year. And, the virus pushed us out, and we said, okay, let's turn it into a virtual event, thus half the price.
Yeah.
And we threw in additional bonuses. Ron has a speed reading course he throws in. I have a membership site I throw in. There's all kinds of stuff. But the main thing is, if they only got the 2 half days of Ron teaching memory, which is incredible. And then my 2 half days, if you're into marketing, building a list, building an audience, whatever that may look like. And we'll talk a little bit about that. I recently interviewed Darren Hardy on my podcast, and Darren did high 8 figures last year. And he said, Kyle coached me. Kyle was my mentor, my marketing coach. And that's true with Robin Sharman. Of course, I built Jim Rohn International, and the same principles I used and I teach them is what I talk about. It's called the wheel, and it's strategic marketing. It's principle-based marketing. We're not selling the dream. We're talking about how to build a real business that will compound over time. So, press the button, I start going. So I'm sorry, Ken.
No, man.
To answer your question, it's $297, but there's so much value. Ron and I talk about it, but it's going to $497 pretty quick. We just cut the price since it became virtual.
Right.
But the benefit of virtual is obviously people don't have to get on an airplane, fly to Philadelphia, book a hotel room, pay for meals, and they actually can have a spouse and their kids there. I mean, we had people buy 5 tickets for the Philly event, to bring their whole family. So
you were on my show last week, Kyle, which we need to remember. I'm every single time I say the word remember, I'm going to think of Ron White from this day forward for the rest of my life. But we need to get Ron on the show too. That'll be fun.
Yes.
But you were on the show and you were talking about this at the end, and it was kind of just like it came up, and we didn't even plan it, right? And I'm like, and my wife was on, and you were talking about all this, and I'm like, what? It's only $297? Are you freaking kidding me? And so we bought live. My wife bought it while I was still on with you. So, I think that it's, look, I would spend $297 for 15, 20 minutes with Ron just so I could learn how to remember all the U.S. presidents. Not that I care, but I would love to be able to say, yeah, I know him. It's blah, 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 blah. And the 16th president was, and that would be so awesome to be able to say. Ron, who was the 16th president?
Well, he's on the penny.
Oh, it's Lincoln.
I even know that one.
Yeah.
Darn it. I gave you an easy one. Okay, the 27th president.
The 27th president was Taft.
That's unbelievable.
You know what? I think he got stuck in the bathtub at the White House or something like that.
Oh my gosh.
So Ken, not to give it all away, but Ron has he has these file cabinets. And so exactly which file cabinet number 27 is. So Ron, the thing, I was Ron's agent. I sold all my companies in late 2007. And, Ron went to Afghanistan to serve. In the middle of his career, we were blowing it up. He was doing huge. And he made the decision after 9/11 to join the military, and he got called to Afghanistan in 2006.
Wow.
And when he came back, after winning the U.S. Memory Championship, I don't want to steal your thunder, Ron, but he decided to memorize every fallen soldier from Afghanistan. And he created this wall, this 50-foot wall, 8 feet high. And he's done it for Major League Baseball, NASCAR, the NFL. He's done it July 4th at the mall in Washington, D.C. He's done it Times Square in New York City. And takes him about 10 hours. And he handwrites every fallen soldier's name by memory. So there's all these different spellings. So my point is for him to memorize over 2,000 people, spell it perfectly, the order in which they passed, their rank, he has to have the system. So it's a pure system. It's amazing. It works for a 6-year-old. It works for you and me. And he makes it simple. And he's got a ton of humor, and he makes it fun, and people have a great time. And we're going to have some amazing people part of that community. People, Mike Muni, Colonel Tim Cole, sometimes Emmy winner Nui Scruggs. I mean, they're all part of my world that are going to be part of this event as well. So a lot of great connecting. And, you know, we'll make that part of the event too, is the amazing community you get to hang out with.
Wow. So Joe Ingram says, does Ron go by the name Google to his friends? that would be somewhat of an accurate question. And by the way, Ron, thank you for your service, and the fact that you memorized that is just amazing.
Well, you know, it's 2,400 people that we've lost in Afghanistan from the United States military. So I memorized them in the order of their death, rank, first name, last name, at 7,000 words. So imagine you're at the Vietnam Wall and somebody's standing at the Vietnam Wall and they're writing the Vietnam Wall out from memory. That's what I do, except it's Afghanistan, because that's where I served.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've done it almost 30 times now at lots of different places, like Kyle said. And every single time I've done it, somebody will walk up and they will say, one lady once said, is Daryl Lewis on the wall? I said, yes, he is. He was a captain and he's number 409. So I took her to 409 on the wall. And I said, how do you know Daryl? And she said, I'm his widow. And I was in San Antonio, and, you know, I was in Maine, and somebody said, is Kyle Van de Giesen on the wall? And I said, yes, he is. He was number 900. I believe he was a helicopter pilot. He said, yes, he was. I said, how did you know him? He said, he was my son.
Oh, dude.
But it's meaningful to me. And it's meaningful to me for a family member to say their family member's name and then me to take them to it, because it shows them, hey, I really care. I know exactly where your son or daughter is at.
Wow.
But, and, you know, sorry, I got sidetracked there thinking about those stories, but it's,
go ahead. That choked me up. That is so powerful, man. I didn't know I was going to get choked up on this show tonight. Good Lord. That's so powerful and touching.
Yeah. And you know, and I wanted to just do something more meaningful with my memory. In 2009, I set the record for the fastest to memorize a deck of cards in the United States. And the record stood for 2 years. The record was broken. And, you know, then I'm like, okay, I gotta train. What am I going to do now? I'm going to get the record back. And then I'm like, no, you know, the guys are too fast now. I'll never catch them. And then you thought, okay, I'll memorize pi to 80,000 digits. That'll be a Guinness World Record. And then I'm like, and then I started to memorize pi to 80,000 digits to break a Guinness record. And then about a week into it, I'm like, this is the dumbest thing. Who is going to care? I mean, who is ever going to care? I want to go where people are going to care. And that's why I chose that. Wow.
That there are people in the audience right now that got choked up from that. So, man, that's incredible.
I will say, Ron Jones, I know he's watching now. Ron, you just chimed in. Go back and watch this replay because you've been mentioned. But what were you going to say, Ken?
I was going to say that's phenomenal. I could literally sit here for hours and talk to you. You're like your depth of knowledge, not just the ability to recall. Obviously, your memory is very, very well trained, but the fact that you know that you have this system, I got a secret now. You know, it's like, I want your secret, dude, and I could sit and talk to you for hours, and I would absorb so much. I know it.
Well, you know, and you know what's the crazy thing is if you just wanted my memory course in my speed reading, you couldn't get it for $297. You know what I'm saying? That's what the crazy thing is. And this is live, and you'll be able to ask questions. So that's the crazy thing. But, you know, people have what I do with the Afghanistan memory wall. I don't want to overwhelm people because I don't want them to think, oh, I'll never be able to memorize 7,000 words. So I like to kind of shift it back and say this. That's something that I did because it was meaningful to me, and it took me 10 months to do. I recently memorized the United States Constitution. It was 4,500 words. I told Fox News, I said, "Hey, I got this. I've done the Afghanistan wall 4 times on their show, but so asking them to do it was one more time was like kind of pushing the envelope a little bit, but I wanted to do it anyway. So I emailed them and I said, "Hey, can I do the Afghanistan wall for a 5th time on Fox and Friends?" And I kind of knew the answer before I said it because I mean they're great, but 5 times. So then I put P.S. If you want, instead, I can write out the United States Constitution from memory, 4,500 words. Either one, hoping that they would not choose the Constitution. They emailed me back and they said, "Ron, we'll do the Constitution. Let's do it in 4 weeks." I'm like, 4 weeks?
Oh, shit.
4,500 words. But I memorized it. And I don't want people to be overwhelmed by that because that's what I did because it's meaningful to me and I've dedicated my life to it. What I would say to the average person watching this, though, is what if you could just memorize 2 new names a week? 2. That's it. That sounds so easy, and it is easy. But take that and now extrapolate it over a year. This time next year, you will know 100 new people. 100 people that you do not know today, that if you saw them at a restaurant next week, you could say, "That's Ken, that's Brian, that's Tom, that's Steve. He works for the Texas Rangers. He works for American Airlines. She works for this." And when I go around downtown Fort Worth, which is where I live, oftentimes we'll go to a restaurant, me and my friends, and they'll say, "Ron, how you doing?" And we'll go into another restaurant and they'll say, "Ron, how you doing?" And my friends will turn to me and they're like, "Dude, I live down here too. Nobody's calling me by my name. You're not famous. You're not better looking than me. What's going on?" And I'm like, they know my name because I know their name. So I'll wrap this point up by saying this. If I can teach you how to memorize 100 new names this year, that's 100 people that you're going to know their name, but because you know their name, they're going to know your name. And that's when memory starts making a really big impact on your pocketbook.
That is unbelievable. I'm so looking forward to this. I really am. It's going to be exciting. And the other part is Kyle Wilson. I mean, he's done a thing or two.
Yeah. I'd be living in a cardboard box if it wasn't for Kyle. That's true. I know he doesn't like me to say that, but it's true. It's been 17 years.
Kyle is, first. And here's the other thing, Ron. This is how this all ties together for me. This is my perspective. It may not be everybody's perspective, but I have the Jim Rohn Ultimate Collection. It's like $45 on Audible or something. And I got it for 1 credit. I was like, okay, but I have it. And so I'm listening to this and I'm like, my gosh, he is so, Jim Rohn is just brilliant. He's got to be the king of the one-liners. Like, I don't know anybody that dropped as many one-liners as he did. And if you said, "Hey, Ken, give me a couple," I could probably give you one of Jim Rohn's, but I hate that I can't, like, I can read a book and be done with it. And I'm like, what did I just read? What was that all about? Like, and and obviously not literally, but I'll recall some of it, but like, that's what I'm looking forward to, is to be able to listen to Jim Rohn or Zig Ziglar and retain a lot more of it. And I'm hoping that's what this is about, right?
Oh, okay. Are you talking?
Yeah. With your course, your part of it.
Absolutely. Right now I'm memorizing the United States Constitution, which is almost, you could say, a series of quotes. But absolutely, remember I memorized the Constitution last year. I'm re-memorizing it during this quarantine just to refresh it. But to answer your question, absolutely, one of the key benefits is being able to read a Jim Rohn book or a Kyle Wilson book or a Zig Ziglar book and then remember the key points, remember what you read. Most of us can walk over to our bookshelf right now, and Kyle's got all these great books behind him, and what would be the value of being able to say, "Hey, look, in this book I learned this, in this book I learned this, in this book I learned this, in this book I learned this." It's day and night. It's day and night, and that's what we're going to talk about in the class.
That's going to be awesome. So, Kyle, let's talk about what you're going to teach in the class. I mean, you've you've done some incredible things. You were Jim Rohn's business partner. I believe you were the only business partner he had in those 18 years. For 18 years, you created Jim Rohn International. Like, that was your company. And I didn't even know that. I had no idea until you said that the other day. So let's talk about what you're going to teach in your parts of this.
Yeah. So Ken, my background's, I'm a marketer, right? And so I started out as a seminar promoter, filling up huge rooms, and I'd get 2,000, 2,500 people in a room. And I would hire Jim Rohn, hire Brian Tracy, hire Augmandino. And then in 1993, Jim's partner owed him quite a bit of money. And so Jim said, hey, we've broken up. And I said, Jim, I would love the opportunity to have an exclusive marketing relationship with you. And that first year I took him from 20 speaking dates to 110 dates, doubled his speaking fee. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about that, on how, if you're a speaker, you can have more speaking dates, and the whole, the game's changed, but the principles haven't. I started creating products. Jim had a handful, but I drew a circle on a sheet of paper, and I called it the wheel, and I had different spokes on the wheel. And from there, we created an 8-figure business with this thing called the wheel. And that's how I coached Robin Sharma, Darren Hardy, Robert Helms, hundreds of people. I built with Ron White. I met Ron in 2002, and he'll share at the event, I was buying thousands of his memory in a month. And then I took on him as a speaker, right? And multiple other people, Dennis Waitley. And it was all built on this wheel principle. And, I've never been a teacher. I've been go out and build it, right?
Yeah.
And when I sold my companies, I retired for 6 years. When I came back out, I started an inner circle mastermind. And then, people started asking me to coach them. It's like, okay, I don't want to do one-on-one, but I'll do group. And at the same time, I didn't want to do an online program because everyone's selling the dream. And, I just wasn't drinking the Kool-Aid. But I said, you know what, Ron, you're going to give away everything you know. I'll give away everything I know. So whether that's the speaking world, whether that's building an audience, got to clear my throat. For me, everything, Ken, has been built around building an audience. I call it fishing versus hunting.
Yeah.
And I was doing that early on. I was one of the first guys to build 1 million+ email list. I wasn't about selling. I was about building an audience, bringing massive value, and occasionally giving people something to say yes to. And I love for the fish to jump on the boat. I don't want to go chase, I want to attract. So everything I've ever done is attraction marketing. Again, Ron and I could charge a lot more for this. We're going to impact a lot less people. We'd rather just, bring massive value. Almost everything we do is, referrals. That's how a business truly compounds, right? When you have advocates. And so early on with Jim Rohn, I created this little quote book built on the wheel. This moved 6 million viral copies. But before this was ever created, and these didn't exist back then, and there were no Jim Rohn list of quotes, and there was no Google, but it was built on the 4 questions I have about the wheel. And so there's these 4 things I take every business through to evaluate what their product should be, what their service should be, and how they get customer acquisition. Because the biggest point on the wheel is just not the spokes, but it's how you get people on the wheel and take them around.
Right.
And so through some really good questions, I came up with this based on Jim's secret sauce, based on who our avatar was, based on our core business. And the biggest one is based on being strategic. What one thing's going to knock down all the other dominoes?
Right.
And so, so it's just philosophy. And that's day 1. Day 2, I get more into self-limiting beliefs and how to become a celebrity authority, how to leverage social proof. Our good friend Jeffrey Gitterber, who jumped on the interview I did with you last week that you had me on.
I just talked to him on the phone a little bit ago. I told him to see if he could pop in the audience here and say hey to you guys. So, and he loves you.
I love Jeffrey. I really do. But Jeffrey asked a great question last time I saw him. He popped into my Philadelphia inner circle and he said, Kyle, where do you live? I said, well, Jeffrey, I live in Texas. He goes, no. You're going to give us your address. You're going to post your address online so we can all show up. And I'm like, of course not. He said, Kyle, you live on your website 24/7. You live on Facebook. You live on Instagram. Now, how good a job are you doing with your website? So I'm going to talk about the 4 critical things. I'm not exaggerating. I sold more of Brian Tracy's and Zig Ziglar's stuff back in 2001, 2002, 2004 than they did through your success store, because I really knew how to leverage the key things. So I talk about those 4 key things for your website. It hadn't changed. It's still the same principles.
Yeah.
The tactics have changed. The tactics are constantly changing through technology, just like we're on Facebook Live today, but the principles haven't. Right. And Jeffrey did a great job of saying, hey, what's new, what's now, what's next? So you got to constantly ask those questions, adjust the tactics based on the technology, but the principles are still have a great product, have great customer service, be consistent, and most important, be relational, build relationships. Because when you go after cold traffic, guess who's the quickest to want a refund? Guess who's the quickest to have a problem? We virtually have no refunds because almost all our business is referred, right? So it's a philosophical thing. I had mentioned on the show Thursday, I actually own Jim Rohn International. It was my company. Jim's previous partnerships had all kind of failed. So I said, listen, I know you're not wanting to start a new one. It'll be my company. I'll pay you off the top. You're the greatest philosopher speaker of all time. I'm a good marketer, and let me go. You give me the rights, I'll go run with it. And we created the products.
Wow.
But we had a 10-year handshake. We shook hands. I just interviewed Les Brown on my podcast. He said, Kyle, I tried to get you to partner then, but you wanted to do a handshake. And that didn't make sense to me, and I couldn't do it. This is 1994. And this was last week. I interviewed him. He's like, biggest mistake. I wished we would have done it because, but my point on that, Ken, is it's principles.
Yeah.
And Jim Rohn said, it's all about bringing value. So yeah, I'm going to talk tactics. I'm going to give you things that, help you get there faster, quicker, easier. But at the end of the day, I'm also going to say it's got to be principle based. You have to think like a farmer. You have to think like I'm going to sow a crop, take care of it. That's going to multiply. And every good business has a compounding effect. Yeah. And anything that's a one-off is probably not going to make a lot of sense. So that gets back to being strategic. And that's what the wheel is all about. So those are just some of the different focuses I'll have over 2 days. And again, like Ron said, a lot of Q&A, a lot of help seats where someone can bring their challenge to us. And, I don't care if they're a coach. I don't care if they're a doctor. You could almost name any profession. And I've worked with them and I'm working with them, real estate investors, and people that want to do their first event. And so there's formulas, right? That for the most part work. Nothing works 100% of the time, but there's principle-based frameworks. Yeah. And then, as we said the other night on the show, you have to innovate and you have to do what's based on who you are. So, that's part of figuring it out, is what's your secret sauce, what makes you special. Don't go copy someone else. So again, it's more principle-based, philosophical approach to taking all the ingredients, but then making it your own.
So, and something that two things I want to point out. Number one is, we talked about this. Zig Ziglar is where I got my start in sales. He literally brought me up, and I'm friends with Tom and Julie and Cindy, and they're amazing people. But when I was in Dallas at Ziglar headquarters, well, Tom and Julie said, "Here, take this and take this." I was back in the storeroom back there, and they handed me this, and I said, I didn't even know this thing existed. And then I find out that you helped create this thing.
I actually did create that.
Oh, you created it.
I did. So I did Jim. I did Mark Victor Hansen was number 2. This is 95.
Wow.
Brian Tracy, because I had your success store and I was doing millions. So what happened is I was booking Jim 110 Dates, but I was also booking Brian Tracy, Les Brown, Mark Victor Hansen.
Wow.
And I did these for Dennis Waitley. I moved 8 million altogether. And Tom and I got to be good friends. I did a big 3-day event in 2001 where I had Zig Ziglar and Jeffrey Gitomer and Bob Berg and Charlie Tremendous Jones, all these guys, in addition to Jim doing his 2-day. And Tom and I hit it off. And from there, I started selling all his products and marketing all his Zigs. And I said, hey, I would love to do one of those little quote books. And I'll never forget the day a guy called me and wanted 30,000 of them. So that was pretty cool because it had our catalog in the back. And so one thing I teach people about books are not about royalties. Books are about being a business card, but also, viral marketing and having advocates and using it to get customer acquisition, build credibility, 15 different things and I'll talk about that on day 2, how to leverage a book, whether it's yours or you're part of a compilation book. But, so many people misuse that. And so my quote books, although I made money on them, 6 million viral didn't come because I sold 6 million people a book. I sold thousands of people, 100 books and 1,000 books. And they were my advocates. They became our army. And so, we try and find, does that principle work in your business?
Right.
And I have a ton of scenarios. And then people often miss the fine intricacies of what makes it work and what doesn't make it work. It's not just created and it's going to work, because it won't. You have to make it about your secret sauce, and you have to kind of understand the different intricacies. And I had a CD, same thing. We moved millions of, but I had a bunch of boxes I had to check, right? And again, it had to take some thought, and it had to go through these different frameworks.
So with I want to bring up a point, and I'm going to ask both of you individually this, and you can answer individually. Kyle, if you didn't know me and I didn't get like a bro discount, do you give bro discounts, by the way? Anyway, if you didn't know me and I called you and said, hey, I want to come and spend 1 day with you or 4 hours with you to have you teach me and mentor me, what would that look like financially?
Yeah, 10,000, but an application, like everything in my world is an application, and I'm serious about that. Anyone that's part of Manor Circle, part of a book we do, coaching, there is an application, because everything is an energy exchange.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And the more you have, again, I'm very philosophically based. That's why Sunday night when Scott McCain started talking about Jim Rohn, he's showing me all the apps. It's like, okay, you got me. That tells me everything I need to know about Scott. Right. Yeah. And so for me, I'm trying to attract those right kind of people. Yeah. But I'll usually talk them out of it. I would talk you out of coming and spending a half day with me and try and figure out some sort of group scenario I have, which I only have 2. Yeah. To see if you're a good fit for that.
Wow. That's incredible. What about you, Ron? What would you charge me?
Well, I also have an application, my process, and my application process is $10,000.
Yeah.
Wow.
But see, I'm kind of making a joke. I was saying if you
pay the $10,000. Did I say 10,000?
But no, that's go ahead. What were you gonna say?
Well, I don't know if I said did I answer your question? Say
you
what
did.
I would charge?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you did.
Okay.
Yeah, so not everybody's approved with you, Kyle, is the big point.
But that's true. I mean, because I don't want some people's money if I don't think they can actually be successful with it.
Right.
It's like a divorce. It's gonna have.
Yeah.
Zig had a great, and Ron, I want to go back to you, but Zig had a quote that has massively impacted me. He said, never do a good deal with a bad guy.
Yeah.
And some people, you can't afford their money, right? And so it's not about judgment. I'm just saying everything's an energy exchange. Everything you have to think, is this going to compound? Am I working with the right person that's going to take me closer to the right people?
Right.
That are in my world, right? And so that's why I don't mind offending people sometimes, because you kind of cut to the chase, right? It's like, okay, I'd rather offend them now than offend them a year later.
Yeah.
And I say offend them by just being myself. We're not everyone's cup of tea. And if someone doesn't like me, let's figure that out quickly, right?
Yeah.
So, sorry about that. So Ron
was saying $10,000, you're approved.
Yeah, well, I'm just always making jokes.
I love it.
But that's my fee as well, and I don't do that as often either. But I had 3 people last year that approached me, and I switched them all around. I mean, I had more than 3 people approach me, but the 3 that I'm thinking of right now approached me, and I switched them around to speaking for their companies because it was just better that way. But it's $10,000. One guy approached me. He's in New York. He's a financial advisor, and he wanted to memorize the Jewish laws. And there's a lot of them, but he wanted to be able to say the laws of the blessings are in this chapter, the laws of waking up in the morning are in this chapter, the laws of this are in this chapter. And it's a lot. It's like, it's a lot. And he wanted to know the chapter numbers. And so that's what I charged him $10,000, and I worked with him. I'll tell you this though, here is a true story. I once memorized a 50-digit number for an audience. And after I did it, the guy sitting in the front row said, "Ron, if you teach me how to do that, I'll give you $100,000. And I thought he was joking because he had paid me to speak and he wasn't paying me $100,000. So I figured it was just a joke. So I went on with my speech. At the end of my speech, I said, okay, I'm going to say the 50-digit number again. A guy at the back of the room raised his hand and he said, I can say the 50-digit number now. I've been studying it the last hour. That guy on the front row, his name is Brent Ryan. I have permission to use his name. Brent Ryan turned around to that guy whose name was Jerry. He said, Jerry, if you say the 50-digit number, I'll give you the $100,000. And I'm like, what? I already said it. So then Jerry says the 50-digit number. Brent Ryan stands up, walks over there. I watched him write a check for $100,000. Yeah, I'm not kidding. He wrote the check, gave him $100,000. I'm in a different city. 3 days later, I get an email from Jerry. Ron, the check cleared. The money is in my bank. I got $100,000. I owe you dinner. I'm like, you don't owe me dinner. You owe me a car. No, this really happened. Brent Ryan, Dallas, Texas. And I have permission to tell the story from Brent. I emailed Jerry and said, congrats, man. Yeah, let's meet for dinner. But I immediately emailed Brent Ryan. I said, Brent, you got 900 people in your company. What would be the value of you being able to walk up and down all the floors and be able to say to the janitor and the secretary and the vice president, I mean, everybody on every level, all 900 people, call them by their name. I said, that would be priceless. And I'll give you a 30% discount off of what you paid Jerry. I'll only charge you $70,000 to coach you. And then I pressed enter and I sat there and I was thinking, man, I was a little nervous. And I got an email back 3 minutes later. Ron, I was just thinking about you. I was thinking about this exact same thing. Yes, of course I'll do it. I'm like, oh my God, this is great. I went to his office and coached him 4 times. And when he wrote me that check for $70,000, he said, Ron, some people may think this is a lot of money just to learn to remember names. He said, but that's not how I think. I don't think about what I'm spending. I'm thinking about how I can leverage this. And I can get so much more than $70,000 for this check. And that's why he is a billionaire, so. But to answer, here's the good news. I'll charge nobody $70,000. But if you do pay that, you are 100% approved in my application process.
He's like, I don't care if you look like this guy sitting next to me. Right. You're approved.
That's true.
What's your alien's name?
He is kind of tight-lipped about that. This guy's name is Neanderthal. I don't know. He doesn't talk much. He's a little worried about the authorities.
So,
he watched E.T. one too many times. He knows what happens.
INS is going to come and take him away. So, you did tell me a joke earlier. I'd love for you to tell the audience that joke. It was actually pretty funny.
Yeah, a guy goes to the doctor. The doctor says, I don't have long to live. And he said, the doctor said, you don't have long to live. He said, how long? The doctor said, 8. He said, 8 what? 8 weeks, 8 months, 8 years? He said, and the doctor said, 7. It was seconds. Okay. But we're going to have fun on this 2-day, May 8th and 9th. It's going to be tons of fun. You know, one thing that I'll tell jokes the whole time. They may be funnier than that. But in the process of having fun, you're going to learn. And people always ask me, do you have a special gift for memory? And I don't. I don't. Ask anybody I compete with in memory tournaments. I don't. If I have a special gift, though, it would be to make it fun and interesting and dumb it down to a simple Neanderthal level. And that's what I can do very well.
I can't wait. I really can't. And I know you're not going to believe this, but it's a true story. Years ago, I bought a book. It was something about mnemonics. It was about memory, right?
Yeah.
And I read it and I remember doing some of the stuff. I don't remember everything, but I was impressing my employees by, remembering numbers and I lost the book somewhere along my journey and I cannot remember the name of the book.
Well, that's okay. I probably know what book it is. It was probably a Harry Lorraine book. He's a good friend of mine. He's 94. It's probably what it is. But
yeah.
You know what? You're going to get it in person now.
I know.
Learning in person is so much better than learning from memory. Learning memory from a book is it takes some discipline. That's hard work.
It was. I remember. That's the only thing I remember about the book is it was really tough to do what he was teaching to do. So, and you're saying, excuse me, you're saying this is going to be simple. It's simple for people to improve their memory.
Well, it is. And even the concept, I collect old memory books. I'll show you. Look at this. I collect old memory books. This one was published in 1900s. This was published in the 1800s, Pliny Miles.
Wow.
This one is a 200-year-old memory book. This is about a 150-year-old memory book. So I am constantly reading memory books because I'm a student of what I teach. And sometimes even me as a memory guy, I got to go back and read that chapter again and read it again. Just because memory it's something you got to think about. And if somebody's not explaining it in a simple way and you're reading it in a book, even for me, it can be difficult. And when I say even for me, I mean somebody with 29 years experience in the field. So, wow. But when you got somebody talking to you and just basically explaining the simple parts, I find it so much easier to learn in a conversation with somebody.
So, and this is going to be in a webinar style format. This is going to be for 2 full days, which is, I mean, I don't know if you two realize this or not, but I do. I've attended a lot of webinars. I've paid way more than $297 to be on a webinar, and it definitely wasn't for 2 full days. Like, that is absolutely mind-blowing that you guys are. That's like, are you sure you have the stamina for that?
Well,
I've actually changed my mind now.
It's about to change. Here's what we do. It's typically $497 for the 2-day, and then we raise it up to $997. You know, as we get closer to the event or selling out. But since we switched it from Philadelphia to virtual, we said, we gotta do something special. So we went from $497 to $297. We threw in a bunch of bonuses, that are real bonuses. But we are about to raise the price again. I mean, it's getting pretty full. But the reality, Ken, is, I mean, to me, the most important thing is, because I see a lot of free stuff.
Yeah.
This is not a bunch of infomercials. This is not a bunch of speakers trying to sell you something. Ron used to make, his whole business used to be doing these 2-day memory events, half a day each day. And it eventually, just his models now, he's a high paid speaker. He gets paid $12,000, travels the world speaking, sells a lot of product when he is speaking.
Yeah.
My model is more my inner circle, but this is something that's really fun for us to do. We only do one a year. And so it's a massive amount of value, and it makes us feel great when it's over. Everyone's saying, wow, I wished everyone was here. And I'll tell you, there's a kind of a funny story. We were in LA, and there was this guy there who had 3 young kids. And Ron makes a comment about Google AdWords, and he got kicked out of Google, years ago, and he can't do Google AdWords. And the guy comes up later and says, hey, I'm with Google. I can help you out. Long story short, by the time the event's over, the guy said, this was amazing. His kids had learned everything. This guy was a principal with Google. He gave Ron his card that said principal. And he said, you tell me the problem. I don't care how hard you've worked. I'll get it solved. And he did, right? And we've had so many of that type of caliber people come, and to hear the feedback, again, the most common thing, I'd say 5 to 1 over anything else, is we wished we had more people here. Wow. So again, it's like everything else, Ken, bring massive value. Jim Rohn International was built on bringing massive value at a fair price, and then let everything compound over time.
I want to share real fast the website. Is that okay with you guys? I'm gonna put it up on screen here. Make sure everybody can see it. So this is the website. Go to the website scrolling across the bottom, memoryandmarketing.com. You can come over here and you're gonna see. I want to go down here a little bit. Do you list all the bonuses? Are they listed here? Because
we threw in a couple of more that aren't on there, like Ron's speed reading course that he sells for $297. There's a bunch of the bonuses.
Free access for 1 year to your member site.
That has over 50 hours of content.
Wow.
Marketing, selling, time management.
The Spanish verb memory
stuff. Do what?
What's the Ron? What is this?
Yeah, how to memorize 100 Spanish verbs. So like hacer means to make or do, tener, to have, ver, to see, ir, to go, querer, to want, correr, to run, esperar, to wait. So you can memorize 100 Spanish verbs, and you could probably memorize them in a day.
Oh my gosh. And then this complete what's this? Did I know this? I don't remember hearing this.
I think that's right behind Kyle right there on his bookshelf too.
Well, Brian Tracy and I co-created an event called the Success Mastery Academy in 1996. And it was 16 modules. He had never done anything like that before. And I took him around the country for 2 years, and we recorded them all and turned it into a product. And to this day, he'll say that's the most, conclusive, powerful audio program he ever did. It was 16 CDs, amazing. And I was visiting Brian January of 2016 at his office in San Diego. And I said, Brian, it just hit me. From the time it hit my brain to coming out of my mouth was like 5 seconds. I said, Brian, we should do a 20-year anniversary of the Success Mastery Academy. Then I had to think, is it 20 years? And I thought we actually did that in 96. And he said, yes. I got chill bumps. And 4 months later in Dallas, we did a 3-day event. I invited my good friends, Darren Hardy, Ron White, Robert Helms, Vic Johnson, Delatoro McNeil, 16 speakers. We had, Brian, it was Brian's full 2-day event. Darren Hardy for 90 minutes, Vic Johnson for 90 minutes. And they were all people that had discovered Brian Tracy at that event. So wow. Darren first discovered Brian Tracy at the event I put on in 96. So it was really cool. I said we're going to film it, but we're not going to sell it. I mean, I've had big Hollywood film crews before. This is really dumbed down. It's about as raw as it can get because I just wanted to have it for posterity, but never sell it. So it's inside the membership site along with all the other stuff, I have that's all very private. I don't sell it. It's just for my inner circle members, but we're making it available for people that sign up.
And then speed reading training by Ron.
So that is on there. I miss.
Oh, okay. It says right here. So holy moly, this is unbelievable, you guys. This is insane.
Speed reading is a really good skill. I'm sorry to
go, please go. Yeah.
And it needs to be, I guess, understood what it really is. And what am I trying to say? I'm sorry. Maybe I shouldn't have interrupted.
No.
Speed reading. I got on an airplane to St. Louis actually to go to do this 2-day event with Kyle and Todd Stottlemyre. And I remember very vividly getting on that airplane and having a book. And when the plane took off to when it landed in DFW to St. Louis, I don't know how far that is, an hour and a half maybe. Yeah. I had the book read and I had all my notes in the back with what I wanted to remember from that book. And then when I got off the plane, I memorized all the key points. And then I went on YouTube and did a live video saying what I just learned in that.
Are you serious?
It was Truett Cathy's book about how he built Chick-fil-A. But it's possible. And when you speed read, you're grabbing out the main points and you're doing it really fast. You're not going to speed read Huckleberry Finn. You're going to read Huckleberry Finn for enjoyment. But if you want to get through a lot of information quickly, it's a valid skill up to a point. I can get you up to about 800, 900 words a minute. Any faster than that, I don't know if it's possible, even though some people say that you can.
That is absolutely mind-blowing. And I have a buddy on here, Corey Calvin, said he just signed up. Good job, Corey. Asa Ingman is a friend of mine in Sweden, and she said, you in USA have to go. Asa, you in Sweden can go. This is
virtual. We have several people in Europe that are signed up. And what we're going to do,
it's virtual.
Yeah. What we're going to do, Ken, is we're going to, this is the goal, is break it into multiple segments as far as recording and get the Zoom recordings up within 30 minutes if possible. So if someone is joining late, they because here's the thing, this is a fact. Ron's in particular builds. So it doesn't really work to start on day 2. So if someone misses day 1 or if there is a time challenge, what we're going to do is we're going to be loading every hour and a half segment into a play. Awesome, Jeffrey, into a place where they can access that first and then catch up with us. And then they're going to have access afterwards. So some people, if this weekend doesn't work, we're going to give them access for a period of time. We'll be very, very generous and fair with that.
I'm sure that you will. Listen, okay, this is I know I'm from Ohio, but trust me, we have a lot of rednecks here in Ohio, and I'm one of them. So I'm just going to let the redneck come out in me for a minute and say, listen, if you don't go sign up, this is $297. Y'all, I understand that some people are running a little bit tighter than usual, but if you can take your memory or multiply your memory by 2 or 3 times better, if not more. I mean, Ron, I feel like I'm going to be able to memorize the Library of Congress rather quickly.
Here's the promise, and this is the promise I make to people when they attend any course that I have, and this would certainly qualify. Four promises that I'll make them. Number one, they will increase their memory by 300%. We will take a test at the beginning, and then we'll take tests later on. I guarantee you 100% without question, you will remember 3 times more on your subsequent test than you did on that first test. And that's 300% increase in your memory. My second guarantee is you will be able to hear 50 words and say them forwards and backwards, and we'll test that as well. My third guarantee promise is you'll be able to give speeches and presentations without notes. You'll know how to do it. And then number 4, I'm going to teach you how to meet 15 people in 15 minutes and remember their names. What you just said just now was, I feel like I'm going to triple my memory. That's actually a guarantee that I have triple. And it's much more than that. The average person increases their memory maybe 5 to 7 times. But I just say 300% because nobody even believes that, So I have to make it believable so people will attend.
So with Ron, that's why he does it over 2 days, because it is a process. Like if he dumped it all in one day, because again, I was his promoter at one time, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, can we put this into a 1 day situation? No, it's like the power is 4 hours one day, then let your brain, go to work. And then the next day it's amazing. And it really is amazing. And I'll equally say there is no one that's not going to get one idea that's going to more than pay for this times 10, right?
Wow.
I have thousands of those testimonials of people telling me, but again, we're going to be sharing those during the 2 days. I have so many examples. Seth Mosley, 3-time Grammy winner, 29 #1 songs, launched an online academy, coached them through the whole thing. And I'm going to walk people through that. Wow. And there were a lot of no's. When Darren Hardy said, Kyle's my only marketing guy, it's not just that he said he made me $250,000, but he saved me a fortune, because we talk about all the things not to do. Yeah. The only thing worse, Ken, and this is, I talk about what's your secret sauce, and there's 6 things to figure out your secret sauce.
Yeah.
Number 6 is, what are you against? And it's really the number one reason I came back out. I'm so against so much of the BS out there in the marketplace.
Yeah.
And, I just see people going out and the only thing worse than paying too much for an online program to go learn to do whatever is going and doing it and then going the wrong direction.
Yeah.
I've seen more people, maybe they spend $5,000 or $10,000, but that wasn't what cost them. What cost them is they went with the wrong plan for 18 months that cost them, $50,000 and $100,000. I have too many of those stories, but I wasn't doing anything about it because I wasn't wanting to coach anyone, right? And so we find these opportunities to share what we know, our experiences, and we have a lot of examples. So it'll be amazing. And when you and I talked yesterday, when I was on your show last night, I did say the price was going up today, right? We had already made the decision. The price was going to $397, then $497, but I held off.
Yep.
And I know some people are going to be catching this a little later, so I'm not going to change it tonight. I'll change it probably, at noon tomorrow.
Yeah.
And it is going to go up, and then it's going to go up again, right? But this is like this is the shift from live event to virtual event.
And that's it. And I want to make sure that everybody understands that. First, Ron had an alien light bulb attack there. But I want everybody to understand that this is a virtual online event where you're going to be attending this webinar style. It's live. So if you have questions, you're going to be able to ask questions. And I mean, Kyle, you don't mind me telling, I'm sure I'm going to be there helping you guys out with some of the technology stuff and making sure that if people have questions that you're able to field them and all of that. So, I think that this is absolutely the most quite frankly, I've spent, I don't even know, hundreds of thousands of dollars on seminars and webinars, and this is insane. This, I think, will be the most life-changing event I've ever been to personally.
And the biggest thing Ron and I want to figure out, and we're talking every day, is how to make it as interactive as possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
And still not take away from, again, it's impossible you can't just open it up to everyone, but we definitely want to pick our spots, and make it as interactive as possible. Definitely have Q&A, and Ron and I always wrap up every day with Q&A, and we have some pretty cool special guests as well that are going to pop in.
Absolutely mind-blowing. Gentlemen, I thank you. I think we should do this again just for the heck of it to see if we, I mean, I don't know. How drop a 1 in the comments if you'd like to see Kyle and Ron back on here with me again some evening before the event. But let me say this to everybody watching. If you have thought, man, I really need to be here, but the $297 is a bit of a stretch for me right now. Call your mom and ask for a loan. Like, $297 investment will absolutely change your life. Go to memoryandmarketing.com. It's scrolling across the bottom of the page right now. Memoryandmarketing.com. I will have these guys both come back on. But listen, if I have them back on in a few days even, the price is going to be more. So you guys need to pay attention to that. It's going to be more than $297. And there isn't going to be but we saw you on Ken the other day, and it's going to be the price is the price. So make sure that right now you go get this. Go to memoryandmarketing.com, get signed up, and don't miss out on this life-changing opportunity.
Ken, we are really looking forward to it. I mean, again, we only do one a year, and it's one of the funnest things we do. And one of the things I teach is build an audience, occasionally give them things to say yes to. And sometimes it needs to be outside the box a little bit. I have my core things. This is one of my few outside the box things I do because it's a lot of fun. And for Ron, it's a lot of fun, and he doesn't do it with anyone else, and I don't do it with anyone else. It's just something we do once a year.
Yeah.
And we went 18 months without doing one because we couldn't find a weekend to schedule it because he's busy, I'm busy, he travels the world. And so this is something we love doing. And my number one value, and it got back to my Jim Rohn days, is bring value.
Yeah.
Jim Rohn said, if you want to be successful, bring value to the marketplace. If you want to be wealthy, bring value to valuable people, right? And just learn to bring massive value. And so that's our number one goal. And when you do that, everything else falls into place. So we're looking forward to it. Ron's going to know every one of your names when it's over. I'll do my best to remember your names, but that's where the connections happen. Ron sent out an email today. People say, you want to go to lunch, you want to go to breakfast? And the answer is no, it's just not possible.
Right.
When you show up for an event, that's where we get to know people. That's where you create that special relationship. And we're going to do our best from a virtual standpoint to try and accomplish that too. We'll probably do a little separate hangout afterwards. I've not talked to you about that, but kind of we usually go to the restaurant or to the bar afterwards and hang out with people for a couple hours. We'll probably do that just online. People go grab your drink of choice, water, Diet Coke, beer, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And that's when we can really open it up and make it special.
That's awesome. And we need to get Ron. I'm getting your name. See, I need his course so bad. We need to get Ron booked a gig in Antarctica so he can check that off his list.
No, I've actually thought of that. Yeah. I think you got to go like in a certain time of year so your plane can actually land.
Yeah, right.
On my list.
So, hey, thank you guys. I appreciate you. Is there anything else that you'd like to add to the throw out there to the audience before we go?
Ron?
My thing that people always ask me, what's the last thought? And my last thought is however good you think your memory is, it's 10 times better than that. Anyone can improve their memory. There's no point in being stressed over forgetting information. It's a simple system. You don't have to be a genius. Anybody can do it. And at the end of the conference, you're going to feel like a genius.
Love that. Kyle?
Yeah, I think, I have stuff on my website. Ron has stuff on his website. If you can't afford to come, there's things you can learn. But if you can come, it's back to the ROI. I mean, the confidence Ron has, the confidence I have that if you'll engage with us for 2 days, there's something transformational, I think, that happens when you spend time with quality people. And I'm not just talking Ron and I'm talking some of the other people that are going to be part of this, some of the guests. It was what Jim Rohn talked about, who you spend time with, and it raises, I don't know if I'd be here today. So you got to get around people that think big. I can promise we don't have any agendas. We're not there to try and take you from step 1 to step 2 to step 3. We do have a couple of things we'll let you participate in if you're interested, but it's not an agenda-driven 2 days. It's to bring massive value. But I realize not everyone can maybe afford it, and they can find some things on YouTube and our website to supplement between now and the next time, we do one of these. But if they can pull it off, it'll be worth their time. And we've tried to make it easy. That's the best I can say. We've just tried to make it as easy as possible.
$297, honestly, even at my brokest point, I think I could have scraped together that. So, that's incredible. So thank you guys, Ron and Kyle. Thank you so much. I appreciate you jumping on here. This has been a blast. And I think, again, we should try to squeeze in one more live stream before the event. And, but this has been a blast. So thank you. I appreciate it. And we will see everybody that shared this out. Thank you so much. Thank you to everybody that's watched and commented, and we will see you all later. Have a great night.
Ken, thank you. Thanks, everyone. Ken did a great job. Hats off to Ken. Good job, my friend.
Sorry, my light bulb exploded, but that's what happens. Your brain power begins to zap the electricity in the room. This is the one side effect of having an incredible memory.
And by the way, when we have our after, our evening sit around, everyone, ask questions. There's inside questions. People want to know about Jim Rohn, like the real stories. And, it's kind of like we talk about anything and everything. Ron and I have a ton of stories, a ton of inside stuff. And so, it's kind of a mini inner circle that happens.
It's going to be awesome. Memoryandmarketing.com. Stop thinking about it and go. If you really, I'm serious, go right now, get signed up. This is going to be awesome. I'll be there, so I'll see you guys there too. So thank you guys. Have a great night. Don't hang up, everyone. Ron and Kyle, don't hang up on me. Sorry.
Okay.
Hang on.
Thanks, everyone.